Well, hello, everybody. Wow, I can't believe we're a week before the American Thanksgiving holiday, a fall break for all of our students. And I think at the end of this exhausting semester, we're really ready for this break. And I hope you're looking forward to being with family or being with friends or being with people in your community to celebrate this very traditional American holiday. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Monica Powell. I'm the Senior Associate Dean and Graduate Dean here. And we have a wonderful audience of people that will join us to watch this live, but we have a great panel of people that will add to the commentary of the chat with the Grad Dean. You never know where the commentary is going to go. So I'm delighted to have our Assistant Dean for Graduate Programs, Mark Thouin, with us. He is also the Program Director for our MSITM program. We have the Assistant Dean for Academic Operations with us, David Widdifield. He is also an OM faculty member, teaches a lot of courses. We have Angela Howard, who is our Assistant Director of Advising in our advising operation. She has been very busy since course registration opened for spring. And then, of course, we have Norma Rodriguez, who is our magic happening player behind the scenes, who makes sure that we do everything right and we actually go live and everything gets recorded. So thank you to all of you that are joining me today. You know, I tell students every year at the same time, if I'm teaching, I tell the students I teach this. And if I'm doing this, I tell the students that are listening. Thanksgiving is, in my opinion, the most wonderful holiday anywhere in the world. I think we have a student with a mic open maybe, but it's the most wonderful holiday that you can have because it's really just this holiday that celebrates gratefulness and it really makes us stop and be reminded of those things that we are grateful for. You know, roof over our head, family that love us, food on our table, getting to be in a great school and get this great degree, getting to work with awesome colleagues and faculty and staff who have the awesome opportunity to be in the business of helping manufacture people's future. I mean, really, who gets to do that? So for me, as a kid traveling all around the world, Thanksgiving was a time when we brought American friends, but also international friends into our home. And I was always amazed when went around the table and everybody said what they were thankful for, the things that I would hear people from other countries talk about being grateful for. I think we're all very blessed. And so there's a lot to be grateful for. And this break that is coming up is going to be an opportunity for maybe you've gotten a little bit behind in classes. You need to do a little bit of catch up. Maybe you need to apply and spend some time applying for internships. Maybe you need to spend a little bit of time improving on your resume or connecting with people that can help you in the job market. It's a great downtime to be able to do that. But also don't forget about, piling on the couch with some really good junk food, whatever that might mean, and watching a really good movie. I plan to do that at least twice in the next week or so. But I also want to talk about something a little atypical today. I think that there are many obvious things that we are grateful for, our parents, our partners, our spouses, our boyfriend, girlfriend, our dog. There's a lot of things we're grateful for. And so we think about all the positive things we're grateful for. I want to take a minute and talk to my colleagues because I don't think we pause long enough sometimes to think about maybe some of the negative things in our life that we're a little bit grateful for. And I think the topic that I'd like to focus on, are mistakes. I think we are living in such a harsh time where people tend to be really hard on themselves, really critical of maybe getting an A minus instead of an A, or maybe not doing as well on a presentation as they thought, or maybe beating up on themselves because they didn't get elected president or vice president of such and such student club. Those are, opportunities missed, but they aren't necessarily mistakes. And I think that sometimes we should step back and think about really the mistakes that we make in our lives where we had bad judgment. We said something that maybe we didn't quite think about what we were going to say, and then it popped out of our mouths, and and maybe you felt bad about the impression that you left, or maybe it was a judgment of a business project that you were working on, or maybe you did a decision to do X instead of Y, and Y would have been more successful. I know in the course of my career, I have absolutely made those mistakes. And my father was always quick to say, you better stop and reflect on it, because that wonderfulness of that mistake will keep you from making about 10 more. And so my father said that when I was really little, and it's something that I have practiced. And I encourage all of you to practice that, um, because I know that even though I want to forgive myself for falling short or not doing something quite right, or maybe thinking that I could have done it better, um, I've missed that opportunity to be kind to myself, but also do it better the next time around. So I was wondering, like from our team here, how do you feel about that? How do you think about the mistakes that you make, and how do you get over them? And what advice would you give to our students about, first, forgiving yourself, because we're all humans, but second, how you take it away? So, Mark, have you had an experience like that where, you've kind of had to learn that good things can come from doing things not quite so right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Monica. So I'm going to try and share a picture. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. All right.
Oh, oh,
And so this you talked about dogs earlier, right? And just by coincidence, this is what I wanted to share and talk about today. So these are my two dogs. Scout is the puppy on the left. I have Greta on the right, and they're a big part of our family. And we've had Greta. She's getting up there in years for about 12 years. And one of the great things about dogs is they're always grateful and thankful. So whenever you take them on a walk, when you get home from work, they're jumping up and down. They're so excited to see you. Feeding them, petting them, giving them a treat. Just every day, day in and day out, they are thankful to be around you, and it's a reminder to me to be more like them and to have that attitude as well of thanks and just being grateful for everything around you. And just kind of one story about Greta on the right, right? So over the summer, she stopped eating her food and fell ill, and so we took her to an urgent care facility, and they gave us some really bad news. They said she was going to die, and she would not be with us much longer. We could expect her to in the next couple of days to pass away. And so we left the urgent care facility just completely devastated by the news. And they also said we should follow up with our local vet, our regular vet, on Monday. And so all day the next day on that Sunday, we were just thinking about our last days with Greta, with our dog, and just trying to enjoy it as much as we can. And there's a happy ending to the story. So we went to the vet on Monday, and it turns out she just had a bad infection. So they
oh,
gave her
wow.
antibiotics, and she's better. She's still with us today. But we went from being just completely devastated by the news to having fantastic news of her being healthy and fully recovering. And then it made me think a little bit about just the news itself, and someone sharing with me just the information that turned out to be wrong about our dog's health, and so just being able to
Forgive
learn from
them.
that experience. That's right, and not get angry or upset too much by that. But that was a pretty stressful day, and for a while there was that was an emotion that I think was just kind of natural to experience, and we ended up in a good place, right? At the end of the day, she's still with us. She's still grateful for just about everything, and again, I think it's just a wonderful attitude for her to have and for others to just have in general in their lives. So that's
Those
that's
two
my story.
dogs, I don't know if they're related, but they look like Pete and Repeat. Are they related?
They are not, no.
Oh my
So
gosh, they're identical. But I do think, I mean,
yeah,
you make a really good point, Mark, that that, it's hard to forgive others for their mistakes as much as it is hard to even forgive ourselves for our mistakes. And so, but what a joy. And that's one thing about dogs. Dogs have no expectation and they're just so grateful for everything. I mean, it's just amazing. I'd like to have the attitude of a dog all the time. Norma, you have 4 dogs. Would you agree?
Definitely. They've made me more patient for sure.
Absolutely. How about you, Angela? You work in a really stressful job, especially during
Yeah.
registration when all the students want what they want when they want it.
Yeah.
How do you handle that disappointment or forgiveness for yourself for a mistake or
A lot of times, Dr. Powell, it is realizing that you are human. We are not machines. We're not AI, not yet. So sometimes we may not be able to handle the volume as fast as that we would want to. So yes, there are times where students can't get enrolled in a class if they can't enroll themselves. They need our help, but there are way more of them than there are of us. So we do sometimes feel guilty that we can't move as fast as we would like to. But
Mhm.
again, like I said, we have to remember that we are human, and we are working as fast as we can. And with being human, we also can give them that human experience, and maybe we can talk to them about why things are going a little slower versus a computer that doesn't give them any feedback when it comes to that. So we
Yeah.
do try to at least understand where our students are coming from too. We have all been, if not grad students, at least undergrad students. The majority of the grad side have been grad students in the past, so we know what it feels like to, want to get into a class, want a particular professor. They really want Dr. Thouin, but it's like Dr. Thouin's class is closed, so we have other professors that can assist you and can teach you. So it's really about just meeting them where they are, understanding that they are frustrated and we get it, and we're just going to try to help you as much as we can.
Yeah, I think what you said in the beginning that, we all are, humans. And I think there are a couple of factors about living in the world today that have made us all more impatient. I blame it all on the cell phone, the smartphone, because I just think, you get on Amazon and 2 hours later you can have, an evening gown at your front door to wear to an event that lasts, that's that night. And I think that we tend to be a little bit unforgiving when people aren't as responsive or as quick as technology is. I think it's a little bit of a misplaced expectation, but I think that that's great to remember, we're all human and we as humans are going to make mistakes along the way as well. And I think keeping that in the forefront is really important. David, what about you? I mean, all of your time in the military, and thank you for your service this post Veterans Day. We are so grateful for that, David. And you had time in industry, you had time in the military, you've had time in academia. What are your thoughts around being grateful for the mistakes that you make and what you learn?
Yeah, I think I mean, it's a great question, Dean Powell. When you talk about, the mistake you make, I think that the key point you hit on is forgiving yourself. Because one of the hardest things to do is I think you're your own worst or most, biggest enemy or most critical of yourself. Even if you learn from the mistake, you're forgiven of the mistake, you still tend to beat yourself up over and over and over again. And I think that's one of the hardest lessons. I mean, me personally, for me to let go and learn from that. But I think that's a key point about learning from the mistake is not just learning not to do it again and be better in the future, but more importantly about forgiving yourself.
Yeah, my dad used to say, the shoulda, woulda, couldas, in the world. I should have done it that way. I could have done that way. I would have done it that way. And I think that in this world, this complicated world that we live in, it's not easy to not have, an attitude of perfection. And I think that that's a challenge for our students. They think that they have failed if they don't have a 4.0, and the understanding that a 3.0 is what's required to graduate. There's a big distance between a 3.0 and a 4.0, and when you've earned the degree, your 3.3 overall GPA degree looks identical to the 4.0 GPA. They're identical. It doesn't say that on your degree. So I think that is a really important issue. I think one other thing that I would just tell students, particularly as they're planning their futures, be it internships or be it careers, that sometimes you have to slow down. You have to not be in a hurry. Most of what we regret is what we missed in life, not what we did. And if you slow down, then you have a better chance of being more thoughtful about all the things you do. I was talking with a group of students on Monday, and this group of students, they were really struggling. They were all graduate students. Amongst the 5 of them, they didn't have a whole lot of work experience. I think the average between the 5 of them was a little bit over 2 years. And they were brand new students, just came in this fall, and they were really struggling with feeling the pressure. I got to know exactly what I want to do when I get done with this degree. I got to know exactly the kind of position I want to apply for. Yeah, you need to know those things, but you have to investigate them to figure out what's the best decision for you. And it was really interesting that none of the 5 students had gone to talk to their program director to use that resource to understand, with my background, which of the tracks would I be better in. None of the 5 had reached out to an alum on Jindal Connect or Comets Community, I think it's called that now, and said, look, can I talk to you about what you do? I want to see if that's what I want to do. Very few of them had been using the primary resource, which was what they called a senior, a student ahead of them. But the problem with their advice was that what they wanted to do wasn't necessarily what they thought they wanted to do. So they were getting kind of this skewed perspective. So I think I would tell students that slow down, go and do your homework, go and talk to people. Information will lead you to the right conclusion all the time. And when we think about the mistakes that we made, oftentimes we make the mistake because we made a decision too soon. We didn't talk to enough people. We didn't get enough information. We didn't understand the process, and therefore we didn't execute correctly. So generally, the lesson that we take away from making any mistake is to just not do any of those 5 things. Now, we're not going to be perfect. We're still going to kind of go there, feel like we're under pressure to do X, Y, or Z. But I think for students, it's just really, really important that you take advantage of the resources. There's nothing more disappointing for me as a dean, and for any of the people on this call, to get to the end and realize that you wasted really valuable time because you thought something else was more important. We talk about the mistakes. I kind of started with that, and I really didn't share, a personal mistake of my own, but I think that's important for somebody like me to share that. I had a dear, dear friend who was in another state, who'd been a big part of my life, and she was near the end, and I'd gone to see her in the months before, but at the very end, I could have gotten on a plane and gone to see her, and I made the decision to not do that, and to this day I regret that. And so I think that's a difficult regret, because you can't really get over that missed opportunity to say whatever I would have said to her. But I can take that, and that happened in 2012. And I can tell you that for every single person who's been close to me that has gotten to the end of their life, of which I just lost one just this Monday of this week, I have made a point of going repeatedly to see those individuals at the end of their life. So that mistake I made with Sweet Edie, I have not made since then. And that is the power of the lessons that you make with mistakes. They make you better people. Whether it's personal, whether it's professional, whether it's feedback that you could have given a colleague that you felt bad giving them feedback that might have been negative. You are always better if you make a decision, sleep on it overnight, and then execute on it the next day. Mark was talking about, Greta and the bad advice he got from that urgent care. And I'm sure that you wanted to fire off an email to that urgent care, or you wanted to run down to that urgent care and give them a piece of your mind for the heartache that you endured for 48 hours before you went to the doctor. But I can tell you that if Mark had written an email to the urgent care and then Mark had slept on it, Mark would have decided not to send that message. And there's been many times where I've been upset, where I've crafted long emails that overview the error or the problem, and then I've slept on it, and then I've quickly deleted that email the next day and opted to handle whatever that mistake was in a much better way, which, by the way, is more often person to person. So Mark, I'm sure you forgave the poor urgent care people.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. My initial reaction was just that. I wanted to, go and talk to them, and I ended up not, and I'm glad I didn't. And, I waited a day, and everything turned out okay. And so I liked your comment earlier, Monica, as well about talking to people, right? So sometimes when you make a mistake, when we make a mistake, it's easy to feel isolated and just alone, and talking to people is your way out of it, and the way to fix it. And so never forget that that you're alone, and it's human, and everybody makes mistakes. We were scheduling classes last week, and just a mistake I made was I thought an instructor wanted the class on Tuesday, but I scheduled it on Thursday, and didn't find out about it until the schedule went live. And it was just, again, it was kind of moving quickly, maybe too quickly, and not slowing down and being deliberate about it resulted in the mistake. But then, we recovered. I just said, hey, I made a mistake. We moved the class, and things were better. So
yeah, and I think that what you it's really important. It's about accountability. It's about owning it. I work for Dean Percool, and he's probably the smartest man I've ever met in the whole wide world. I do not know how he processes mass amounts of data so quickly and comes to the right conclusion. The wheels in his head are just different than mine. But, I can tell you, having worked for him this is my 17th year, that when I have gone into him and I've said, Hassan, we made a mistake. We made an error, and this is what we need to do to fix it. This is what we've learned from it. This is how we've changed a process to prevent it. I've always been so amazed at being able to work in a place where there's permission to fail, or there's permission to make a mistake. And I think that that's really important for our students to have that mindset of, when you have missed a deadline, that you own it. When you have made a mistake and misunderstood something, own it. When you have let your classmate, your team member down, and they rate you low on the peer assessment grade on that project, own it. Don't, it is so easy in this world for us just to be defensive, to defend what happened. 9 times out of 10, we own the mistake, and we just have to admit it. And I can tell you one thing that I've learned is that when you own it and you admit it, it's a whole lot easier to forgive yourself for it. It's hard to forgive when you don't own it. And I think that's a lesson I learned from, when your parents kind of put you in timeout, and they get you out of timeout, and you come out and they say, okay, well, what did you do, Monica? What did you do wrong? Well, Monica, what did you learn from doing wrong? Well, Monica, what are you going to do differently in the future? I think that process is good, and I use that even as an adult. So thank you guys. Thank all of you for sharing. I'm really grateful for that. I do want to use this opportunity to make sure that if there are any questions that our students have that we need to answer, we want to answer those. So please type those into the chat. Also, I do want, Angela, are there any urgent advising registration deadlines or anything that students need to know? Mark and David, are there important deadlines for reporting internships or anything that's coming up that we want to remind students of while people are putting questions into the chat?
I think Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no,
Go
you
ahead.
go first.
No, you go. Go ahead.
Well, we don't really have, since we're currently in regular registration, we don't have any really important dates for students. The main thing to remember is that we are registering people. You have regular registration will continue until January 11th. And then for the next week, January 12th through the 23rd, you'll have late registration. So I know people were very anxious about certain classes. So it's okay. Like I said, we literally have months to do this. So just look at the wait list. After December 8th, the grad students will be able to enroll in more than 13 credit hours for the fall or for the spring. So December 8th is where we'll start allowing people to enroll in more classes. But of course, we do not want you to enroll in too many. So maybe 13 is good for you, or 12 is good for you when it comes to
don't
hours.
be a class hog. No class hogs allowed.
Yes,
Please
and also
only
don't take
enroll.
too many.
Yeah, because if you are a class hog and you're only planning to take 9 hours and you sign up for 15, then you're stealing a spot from a student who just needs 9. So don't be a class hog. David, I think you had a reminder.
Yeah, Angela beat me to my first point, but second one is don't wait to enroll. I've had a lot of discussions this past week about that. The other one is that I know we were getting a lot of emails coming in to both academic operations, me personally, and many of the areas about TA ships. And the TA application is still open. It will be open until Friday, and then we will close that out. The areas are going through and doing those evaluations. There have been, the question I've been getting is, well, my friend got hired, but I'm not hired yet. Does that mean I'm not? No. That means that the areas are starting to go through, and now that we're getting our enrollments, we're able to see what our TA needs are. So that doesn't mean you've been automatically disqualified. It just means that some departments or areas are moving faster because their enrollments are growing. So back to what Angela just talked about, make sure that, don't think you're automatically disqualified because your friend gets hired.
Yeah, exactly. And also keep in mind that there is not a single variable that determines if a person is hired as a TA. A person can have a 4.0, but a 3.6 might get hired because that 3.6 has 4 years of work experience in an area that is directly applicable to the class where they will TA. So they're going to pick the best candidate, and the best candidate doesn't mean students with a 4.0. We always get that question. So David, I'm so glad you brought up TARA. Mark, what about you? Any reminders for our students?
Yeah, so just to echo what David just said, right? Don't wait to register. It's open. Make sure you pick your classes now. And regarding the TA application process, I do have one comment to share as well. So we get lots of questions about how we pick TAs, how we select TAs, and that's probably one of the most common questions I get day in and day out. And one factor that we look at, so first of all, we look at every application that we receive for a TA position. So if you've applied, you will be considered for an opening. However, one of the big factors we look at as well is the number of courses you're able to be a TA for. So if you've taken, for example, 8 courses or 9 courses, right, and someone has only taken 3 courses or 4 courses, that person who's taken 8 or 9 courses is able to be a TA for a greater number of courses, because you can't be a TA for a course you haven't taken yet. And so they're going to have a bit of an advantage when we evaluate their application. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind as you go through the process. The number of courses you've completed is a factor in the TA selection process.
Wow. Well, thank you. Those were all great reminders. So Norma, here we are, 41 minutes. How is it that we talk so much? We're 41 minutes into chat with the Grad Dean and others. So what kind of questions do we have?
So we do have a couple questions, but before we get into the questions, I do want to share a couple comments that one of our attendees made. And he mentioned that I think the conversation about failure kind of resonated with him. And he said that some of the most important life lessons are learned through our failings and finding the positive, focusing and leveraging those aspects. And he shared a story of when he made a $500,000 mistake. And, of course, he felt bad about it, told his boss, but his boss told him not to focus on the mistake, but to focus on the solution. And so I think that's really great. advice.
Wow.
Always think about solutions. And so I just wanted to share that because I thought it was a great story.
Thank you to whoever put that in the chat. Yay, you, and yay for the boss that you were working for.
Yes, yes. So our first question is from a business analytics master's students. They are wondering if they can take courses outside of JSOM, like from the electrical engineering area.
So that's a great question. Typically, the rule is that you could take, I think it's up to 6 hours, right? It's 2 courses, but I would not do that just arbitrarily. I wouldn't just go sign up for them. I would go and talk to the program director to make sure that that course is going to be counted and is applicable to your degree. So you can't go off and take, I don't know, biology at the graduate level and think it's going to count toward, your ITM degree. So yes, you can do that, but you need to get that cleared in advance. Get that approved in advance, have it in writing, give it to an advisor so it's in your on-base file so that you don't have a problem later with that.
Perfect.
Our next about that too.
Oh,
just
sure.
one thing before. Please be mindful of what course you're taking. If it's outside of JSOM, you may not be able to repeat it if you don't do well. A JSOM class is a lot easier to repeat because it's a required course for your degree. But if you are a JSOM student taking a computer science class, computer science could say no to you repeating their course. So just be careful with that if you don't do well.
And that has happened.
Yes, it has.
Just so you know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, our next question is, what initiatives are underway, if any, regarding the growth of the PhD/doctorate programs at UTD? They're specifically interested in a doctorate in business analytics/intelligence or a PhD in data science, with particular interest in remote/online classes.
Wow, that's a really great question. So for the individual who's interested in that, you know probably already that we offer 2 different PhD programs. And one of those, which is in management science, can be in IS and can be focused in the areas that you're looking for. Generally speaking, universities are just beginning the process of considering degree programs in artificial intelligence at the undergraduate level. We have, concentrations not in artificial intelligence, but in, business intelligence and data mining, those kind of things. And even universities are starting to consider master's degrees in business intelligence. I think it's going to be a while before there will be PhDs that are specifically devoted to that because of the rapid pace in which artificial intelligence is evolving. So if you are interested in a PhD program, I would strongly encourage you to reach out to Sumit Sarkar, Dr. Sarkar, Sarkar. You can also reach out to Kira Clement, and I would talk to them. They hold information sessions for the PhD program pretty often. And we have a very well-known, highly regarded IS faculty here and OM faculty for that matter. And so our PhDs are doing cutting edge research in the area of AI, and you really should be talking to our PhD program about how you can take our program and tailor it into the PhD that you want to get. And I think, Mark, you may have put a link into the chat. I think I saw it pop up on the screen.
Yeah, yes, I did. So we also have a DBA program.
Yes.
So that may be something you're interested in. I'd encourage you to take a look at it as well. So it's offered through Exec Ed. It has meetings on the weekends, 8 hours a week, and it's meant for people that are working full time.
Yeah, and that's brand new program, just launched this fall.
Perfect. And I do have another question. So this question is, there was a recent and sudden shift in exams being proctored in the Student Testing Center rather than using HonorLock. My understanding is that this is because of cheating. What efforts are being made to push this needle back to leveraging HonorLock? This person strongly believes that this shift will noticeably hurt UTD's ratings, specifically regarding their online modality against other universities.
Yeah, I think that's such a great question, and thank you to the student that asked that question. I think the technology around honor lock and integrity software, it's very, very expensive, number one. And it is highly evolving very quickly. And I think while it's in this evolution and trying to figure out and work out the kinks that exist in it, I think faculty are doing the easy defer to the testing center kind of situation. But let me offer just a couple of related comments. You know, if you are in a fully asynchronous class and you need to take the test, and the test is being offered in the student center, and you are in California, we can arrange, the testing center can tell you of a testing center that is in California where you can be able to take that test. We want to do our best to preserve the integrity of our exams. And I think that that's why there's been a shift in the short term back to the student testing center. But I think that we're going to catch up with that technology, and there will be more technology out there. I'm not disparaging against honor lock. It has all of them have a few ups and downs in terms of how they work and their credibility. But I think maybe some faculty aren't yet comfortable enough to be using it. But I'm curious from both Mark and David, what you think from your area's perspectives about online classes, going back to using online exams with honor lock.
Yeah, I'll start. I teach online courses, so for my courses and for other faculty who in the OM that do this, one of the things that we've seen kind of mixed results on has been requiring the exam to be taken at the testing center. Myself and another OM faculty member, we do open online exams, which those are much harder, to be quite honest. I think that there has been a concern about the academic integrity of those exams, is why we moved back towards the testing center. I know that earlier this year, I was asked to specifically talk to the university about could we do that, and did find out that we do have university policy and precedent set that instructors who teach remote courses, online courses, can do a percentage, 12% of that course in a face-to-face mode, which includes taking exams at the testing center. So just from my own personal experience, my courses and with my colleagues there in OM, we're trying to attack this both ways, because we realize that the attraction of online courses is the fact that it gives you a high degree of flexibility in completing your degree, as well as for many of our students who are taking internships. Unfortunately, I apologize for being a little bit distracted. I have a student who's over at Tesla in California who's trying to finish an assignment. And he's like, I'm trying to do this right now, and I know I'm coming up right on the deadline. Can you help me with this? So, but yeah, I think that's from my perspective, that's how I see the exams going. One of the other things that I'll mention is that we're even talking at the faculty level in the OM area. Is a test the final? Is that the right tools to actually be used? And this is specifically at the grad level. Should we be doing that? In one of my courses, I use a final case analysis project. That's your final exam. So that's my input.
What about you, Mark?
Yeah, so there is, you're right, with an online class, it's so convenient to just take your exam wherever you happen to be and wherever you happen to have an internet connection. But the flip side to that is, as instructors, as faculty, we need to make sure that the exam is fair for everyone. Most students are honest and take the exam seriously, 80, 90, 95% plus, right? They're not going to cheat. They never would consider cheating. But there's always just a few people that may do it if given an opportunity or if the circumstances allow it. And so we're trying to prevent that from happening. The integrity of your degree, the degree you earn, right? The value of your degree depends on this, right? So we want all of our graduates to have a certain level of mastery of the material that they're covering and that they're learning. And this is one way for us to ensure that they do and have that mastery and knowledge.
Norma?
Perfect. So this is kind of a follow-up question to the honor lock question. What efforts are being carried out to look more into cheating, such as where the instances of cheating are occurring, which demographics are more likely to cheat? And this person was just mentioning that, most of our graduate students are pursuing professional degrees and hold a lot of our students hold full-time jobs and are less likely to cheat. And then they mentioned that, the local testing centers are a little bit difficult to kind of get to with students that have full-time jobs.
Yeah, I think, as I said earlier, the instances of cheating, Mark, you covered the data pretty accurately about what the national standards are. They are about exactly what you said when you look at the percentage of students that are cheating in a graduate program. And I will tell you that, if 95% of the people are not cheating and there's maybe as few as 5% that might be or would use that opportunity, they're representative of all demographics. Your background, your status on working, your country of origin. We see all people of all types and varieties that do get turned in for cheating. And I will tell you, I want to give you an example of a recent situation where a faculty member used honor lock. You guys know that when you're using honor lock, the technology is tracking where your eyes are on the screen, and this faculty member could clearly tell that that a couple of students in their class were cheating. She could tell that their eyes were turning off to the side. She suspected that they had another computer or another person that was in the room that was trying to assist. And so she had to prepare the case to turn in those students for cheating using honor lock. And the process to do that was multiple hours of her work that she had to put into the video clips and making the case and turning it all in. And sometimes it's just easier as we're waiting for the technology to evolve a little bit better. That's a big chunk of faculty time if they have to turn in. If they have 100 students, they have to turn them, 5 of them in. I mean, so I think that I would ask that our students be patient, because AI is changing everything very quickly. And the technology around this is also changing very quickly. These technologies existed pre-pandemic, but became very popular during the pandemic because everybody went virtual. And they were not quite ready for the type of dramatic impact that they were having during the pandemic. So I think the technology is having to catch up a bit. But be patient with us. To Mark's point, we want the value of your degree to mean something. And sometimes that may mean a short-term inconvenience for the credibility of the value of the degree. So just bear with us. We'll get there. We just got to catch up with the technology, and the technology's got to catch up with us.
Thank you. Those are all the questions that we have.
Wow. Well, those were really tough questions. So thank you to those students who are with us and who gave us those great questions. I hope we all hope that all of you have a joyous and wonderful Thanksgiving. If you are far away from home, get on WhatsApp and tell your parents or your grandparents what Thanksgiving means in America and what maybe you did for Thanksgiving, and tell them what you are grateful for, including them. If you're here in the US and you're going to the airport, pack a lot of patience and go early to get through security, and make sure you have a good supply of snack foods on the plane if you're delayed and sitting on a runway. And if you're driving down I-35, leave early. And make this holiday what I think it's meant to be. It's, I think, the one holiday that you can't really commercialize. And that means that when you can't commercialize it, there's nothing to buy other than good food. And that means that it's about who you're with and how much you tell them that you love them and you're grateful for them. So make this holiday everything you want it to be. Use the time you have if you need to catch up. Register for those classes, prepare for those final exams, and get ahead. Know where it is that you're going. Spend the time to figure that out. We're so glad you joined us today. I want to thank Mark. I want to thank David, Angela, and Norma for all joining us. Thank you for joining us as well. Pass it on. We're really, really grateful for all of you. So thank you and happy Thanksgiving to all of you.